Good afternoon and welcome to today's CABE webinar. I'll be with the panellists in the CABE Women Committee. My name is Shanika and I'm the Training and Learning Coordinator here at CABE, and I'll be acting as the moderator for this morning's session. We need to strive to create interactive webinars, so we do encourage you to submit any questions you may have during the session. These questions will be addressed at the end of the presentation. We'll get through as many as possible, but if we do run out of time, we'll send questions and send answers out in due course. You can also contact webinars at cbuilde.com. If you're watching us live today, you can use the side panel to get in touch with your questions. Alternatively, you can contact with us via the social links now on screen. Before I hand you over to the chair of the panel, Lindsay Richards, let me introduce CABE for Women. I mean, to raise awareness of women working in building engineering. CABE for Women provides a safe space for all to build an encouraging network. CABE for Women has been established to encourage and support members and development in a supportive and collaborative environment. So if you give me a couple of seconds, I'll hand over to Lindsay and she'll begin shortly. Yes, I'll share them and you can go ahead.
Good afternoon and welcome to this CABE for Women CPD event, the Skills Gap. I hope you've got your cuppa and cake ready. I've actually got mine, Welsh cake obviously. I'm Lindsay Richards. I'm a chartered building engineer and chartered quantity surveyor, and as Shanika said, chair of the CABE for Women group. So happy to see so many of you here today, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Shanika and Abby actually for facilitating this session today too. They've been brilliant. I'm also board director of CABE. I sit on the RICS Construction Professional Panel. I'm a committee member of the CIC Future Skills and Education Group, practicing QS, and a former university head of School of Architecture, Built and Natural Environment. So I've seen firsthand the drop in numbers of student applications in construction related courses for some time now. Very disappointing. Mark Farmer's prediction in the Farmers Report in 2016 in relation to the ever widening skills gap has sadly come to fruition. It's desperate times right across the board. We're hoping today is going to be an interactive session, so please use chat for any insights, questions that you'd like to raise. We may even ask you to contribute on screen if you're happy to do that, to join the platform for discussion. If there's something you'd like to share, and we've got the time as well. So the event follows our normal pattern at CABE for Women, which is quite relaxed. Before I introduce the panel, Shanika said a little bit about the group. The CABE for Women group was launched in March 2022. We've grown from a modest 5 members to 265 members to date, which is amazing. Our objectives include quite a few, but establishing a platform that promotes female role models is one of them. Sharing insights and experience with members, providing a safe place to discuss barriers to diversity is another really important one. Providing support and mentoring to women in construction, establishing links with other organisations and groups, and we think that's really important. Promoting the construction industry as a career, providing network opportunities, and sharing industry best practice regarding gender diversity. The group was established because of a group of like-minded women deciding it would be useful to provide a platform for women in construction. And we're fortunate that CABE are supporting us in this. I should add here today that the group's individual opinions are not necessarily the views of the Chartered Association of Building Engineers. These are based on our own experiences. This is a safe place to discuss whatever you want to. So I'm going to introduce the panel members and committee members of CABE for Women today. They include our Vice Chair, Elizabeth William-Defoe, Anna Thompson, Jane Hall and Julie Brown-Rigby. And I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves today. So if I start with Liz, would you like to introduce yourself, Liz?
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our second event for the year. My name's Elizabeth Williams-Defoe. I'm a CABE member and I have been for the last 10 plus years. I'm, as Lindsay says, I'm Vice Chair of Women for CABE. I'm also Treasurer appointed for the Southern region of CABE and have been for for, again, plus 10 years. My current daily role is that I'm a senior development manager for a housing association. So 2024 marks 24 years that I've been in housing, and I started off as a trainee housing officer. And I quickly established that actually I liked the technical side of housing when I had to deal with the maintenance side of things. And so I decided that I wanted to work in regeneration and new build. And I was very fortunate when I was working for one of the bigger housing associations to be able to take up one of their training programs. And here I am. So I work with residents as well as contractors. I work with multidisciplinary project teams, and one day I could be assessing risk, and the next day I could just be looking at some drawings. One day I might be talking to residents about how they're settling into their new home, and the next day I could be dealing with financials and budgets. So my role's really ranging, and I'm looking forward to just talking about some of the skills shortages that we're seeing within the built environment.
Brilliant. Thanks, Liz. Next, if I'd like to introduce Anna Thompson, if you want to tell us about yourself, Anna.
Thank you very much. I am Anna Thompson. I'm a chartered building engineer. I'm a chartered building control surveyor. And I've worked in building control for the whole of my career, which is next year will be 40 years. First 24 years actually working for local authorities, several of them across the country. And for the last 16 years, I've worked for LABC, and I'm head of engagement for LABC. So my role involves talking to, obviously, our members working in local authority building control, also obviously the rest of the industry and our clients, and also lots of collaboration with other bodies, which is excellent. I'm vice chair of the National Home Improvement Council, which is good because it gives me, I'm very keen to get the sort of demystify rules and regulations and make as many people as possible aware of what their responsibilities are, particularly under the Building Safety Act, because those have got so much more stringent and are really new for a lot of people. So yeah, head of engagement is my role, which basically just means I talk a lot. So I'll shut up now and give somebody else a go.
Brilliant, thank you. And Jane Hall, if you'd like to introduce yourself, Jane.
Well, hello everybody. Some of you might know me. I have been in building control for some time. I came into building control in 2003, but I'm not that young because I actually started my career in 1984 working for an architect's practice. I started as a trainee architectural technician, and I spent quite a lot of time doing that before I transferred my skills across in my sort of late 30s to building control, and I've never looked back. I was very privileged to be the first woman elected to be president of local authority building control. That was in, well, I was elected to the presidential team in 2014. So after I'd been in building control for about 11 years, although it's flown by, and I'd had my presidential year in 2016. I'm a fellow of CABE, and CABE, I joined CABE when I came across to building control. It seemed to be the professional body that best suited what I wanted to, gain from my membership, and it's not let me down yet. So a fabulous organisation, very diverse. There were a lot more building control people when I joined. It seemed to be the professional body of choice for the building control profession, but it's much more diverse now. And I think, having that, cross-section of different professions in the organisations gives a much better insight of what's going on in construction. So I was elected to the board of CABE, and then for some reason, people thought I was good to be nominated as president, and I was elected president of CABE, which I undertook my presidential year in the year of COVID. So it was very unusual, just as everybody was getting used to going online, but I'm proud to say that I went to pretty much every single regional meeting, including overseas ones. So yeah, it was quite a year. I've worked, as I've said, I've worked in a small architects practice. I ran my own little design company for a little while, and then when I came into building control, I got trained up, and I did the CABE 2-week crash course in building control, which was again an excellent start. And I did the CABE, we're doing a degree course at the same time, so I was very privileged again to be able to get a degree late. It was fairly late in my career, really, because I went straight into construction from school and did my HNC on day release. And you know what you're like when you're about 22, you've done 4 years of day release, you don't want to do any more, do you? You think, oh, I don't need to do any more. But yeah, later on I learned that the you know, continuing professional development is something you should take on. So I've worked in a very tiny local authority right up to a large unitary. I'm currently looking after the technical compliance side of things at Hertfordshire Building Control, which is a company set up by 8 local authorities to deliver their building control service. And I've spent a small section of time in the private sector as well. So I think I've, you know, across my career, I've had quite an insight into different organisations, and yeah, it's proved to be very beneficial. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Oh, that's great. Thanks, Jane. And last but not least, Julie Brown-Rigby. Julie, would you like to introduce yourself too, please?
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'm afraid I can't compete with my predecessor there, but I'm a chartered building engineer. I'm a registered building inspector. I'm a fellow of CABE, and I'm also an incorporated engineer. I've worked in the construction industry for, dare I say it, over 50 years now. And like Jane, I cut my teeth working in architecture as a trainee architectural technician for what was at the time one of the biggest construction companies in the country. We had all our own architects department, civil engineers, landscape architects, and we did everything in-house in those days. Even all the trades were all employed direct. There was no subbies in those days, and we just learned everything from our peers. And I had a wonderful training in architecture. I worked with some brilliant architects, and I stayed in the private sector working in architecture until probably about 1999, when I joined building control. I was lucky enough to have an opportunity to join Norwich City Council and working my way through from being an assistant BCO up to being manager of another local authority in Norfolk, which I then decided that I wanted to expand a little bit more and come back into the private sector. So now I'm working on building consultancy in the private sector, but I still keep my hand in because I'm a registered building inspector, so I still do some regular building control as well. But I have to say, working in construction, I don't know how I got into it actually, because I actually wanted to be a fashion designer when I left school. And I was asked to go along to John Lang's, who it was, where I started my career, and they said, well, we don't care if you haven't got technical background, we can teach you that. We just want someone that's good at drawing and good at art, which I suppose I was in those days. And I took along all my fashion drawings, and they said, yeah, okay, we can see that you're good at drawing. And to be honest, the rest is history. You know, I had a marvelous career working for them and just progressed all the way through. So yeah, and I'm enjoying what I'm doing now, the consultancy side, because as we all know, for working in building control, things have changed a lot in the last year. There is this competency that we all have to go through, and CABE is an absolutely wonderful platform to do that, in my opinion. We're supposed to be probably the more difficult route to take, but I think it's actually a very fair route to take as well, and how we're assessed. And I'm actually involved with some of that now. I do ratifications for the being an incorporated engineer. And once I finish doing that, I'm hoping to become a panelist as well. So to interview protective RBIs. So it's something I'm looking forward to doing actually. So yeah, so far away any questions that you have at me at the end, because say I've had a long career in construction and I would recommend it to anybody be honest, you know, there's a lot of ups and downs in construction, but it's always given me a good career. So yeah, that's about it from me, I'm afraid.
Well, that's brilliant. Thanks, Julie. You're quite right. We come from a range of backgrounds and experiences, which is really useful when we consider the issues that we face in the industry generally. But that's one of the reasons why I joined CABE. I joined CABE only about 5 years ago, because of the nature of the mix of professions that were part of it as a professional institution, if you like. I love that it's smaller, but it's really flexible because of that. Very quick to react to changes in industry. So yeah, and we're all passionate about construction within the. I'm sure most of our audience are too, but we are incredibly all passionate about construction. We've all loved our careers, and we have lots of interesting chats. So we'll see who's here today too in a minute. But if we look about the skills gap, it's one of the things that we're going to be talking about today is the backdrop to the skills problem. So from a quantity surveying point of view, we currently have a predicted construction economical forecast that suggests the UK economy is showing signs of improvement. So growth is forecast to be quite modest, but there's a need by 2028 for an extra approximately 251,000 construction workers to meet the expected level of work that we're going to be looking at. So the Construction Skills Network report, which is part of the CABE, provides an insight into the economy and its future labour requirement. It's quite a useful one. It splits into regional areas as well. So if any of you get a chance to have a look at that, it's a good source of information. So we're expecting this increase in growth, as I say, in 2025. But the next 3 to 4 years will see a steady rise too. However, one of the current skills gap at the moment is planning and planners. So construction output will be limited due to planning delays because they'll continue to blight schemes because of lack of planning resources and poor direction. As a result, development is going to take longer to get to site, and sometimes the projects get lost on the way. They are really important issues the government intends to address at the moment, but it's just more evidence of the skills gap. The procurement of planning resources, just like any of the other things we're going to have to be planning for, to adjust this problem with this skills deficit, it's going to take time. And the other constraints that we've got, including reduction in suitable contractors then to tender for projects, are going to limit the total increase in construction output anyway. We've already seen that in the last few years, contractors have been very cautious when it comes to tendering, resulting in some contractors pulling out of certain market sectors, particularly moving away from high-rise residential because of the risk, so focusing on other areas. Outside of the larger markets and the main cities, we've got a lack of resources becoming especially notable, with traditional tender lists decimated because of the demise of established contractors. It's all a perfect storm at the moment, because if we haven't got tenders coming in, then no other part of construction is going to be developing. As we know, it's an important part of our economy. I always think the CABE's strength is its diversity of professions, and we all have experiences of different parts of the construction cycle as well. So even our roles within the construction industry, even on our committee here, means that we nip in and out doing different parts of the construction cycle. And so we definitely see all the gaps. The CITB at the moment report that the occupations with the strongest additional requirement levels are electrical installation trades, bricklayers and masons, directors, executive professionals, and just as well I'm not doing aerobics, isn't it? And senior managers. So we're going to be talking about our experiences today, what we think the causes of the skill gaps are. We know that there's a decline in the number of apprentices entering the construction industry. We know there's an aging workforce, an unattractive image of the construction industry have all contributed to the widening skills gap. In addition to this, when we actually try to encourage more women into the industry, we've seen a really very disappointing report last month from the engineering technology workforce that's saying despite efforts to increase diversity in the industry, the representation of women in engineering and technical occupations has continued to decrease, with around 38,000 leaving the workforce in 2023. The report is available for anyone to read, but the proportion of women in engineering technology has dropped from 16.5 in 2022 to 15.7 in 2023. It reflects a concerning trend of declining female participation in what is a male-dominated field. And although we're talking about engineering, we're talking about construction within sort of technology as well. The CITB Construction Skills Network provides insight into the UK construction economy. As I say, it's a good read because it gives us our future labour requirements. Geographically as well, it shows us the current need for certain employment skills within different geographical areas. So with that knowledge, knowing the stats then, extra workers required to meet UK construction output by 2028 is 50,300 per year. It's an increase on what we were looking at in 2023 to 27, which was 44,890 extra workers. We know that we're expecting output growth to forecast for all devolved nations, but we don't know what's going to happen when it comes to providing construction resources for that requirement. The major sector for demand at the moment are going to be private housing, infrastructure, repair and maintenance, and a lot of the infrastructure projects are in place at the moment. So I'm going to ask a few questions, and I'm hoping that the panel, I'll give it over to the panel and anybody to offer suggestions or any questions they've got on some of the issues raised. So why is there a shortage in why is there a labour shortage in the construction at the moment? I've given some sort of basic things, you know, aging construction workers, lack of training, apprenticeships. So should we start with that as a starter for 10?
Okay then. Well, in my experience, I don't think that there's enough education in schools. A few years ago, I was actually asked to go into schools and locally in Norfolk to sort of try and promote my profession. I was lined up one day with a whole load of other professionals. We're all on the stage in this school, and all the kids in the audience were asked to, they were all given a list of who the people were, and they were asked to sort of put the name to the person on the stage, or the job title to the person on the stage. Funnily enough, I got called that I was a beauty therapist. No one actually thought that I was in building control. And the guy that was a policeman, well, you'd have thought they'd have picked him, but they didn't. So there was a lot of diversity. But basically, I think really that it starts off with education in the schools. I don't think there's enough given to kids to know what is actually out there. And so many of them, in my opinion, they don't want to do the sort of work that we do. There's all these promotion of IT and media, and I don't think they promote enough that there is this fantastic career within construction. I know a lot of youngsters these days, they don't want to be working out on site in the cold. Somebody once said he wanted a Ferrari like the guy that was driving down the road, and that guy that owned the Ferrari, he was actually a plumber. That's how we started off. You know, they don't understand that there are this amazing career within construction. So I think it's the grassroots. It starts from the very early age of trying to get people into the profession and the industry generally, not just professionals, but trades on site. I don't know what anybody else feels about that.
I think we need to work on their parents as well, because those of us who are parents know that to varying degrees we do have influence over our kids' life choices, don't we? You know, hopefully they're things like, you know, don't break the law and don't drive too fast, but there are other things that we try and steer them towards. Mine works in IT, so I don't know where that went. But I do think I think the parents of kids that they're not aware of the richness of the careers. They're not aware of the diversity. They're not aware of the options available. So they think, oh no, darling, you don't want to be a bricklayer, do you? That's so dirty. But they have no idea about all the other things that are involved in the construction industry. So I think we've got to get to work on things like Mumsnet. You know, we've got to get on social media talking about being proud of our kids who are doing X, Y, and Z, and proud of our trainees who are doing X, Y, and Z, to actually make it more aspirational and make people steer other people towards at least finding out a bit more.
Excellent. Yes, some good points there.
Mm.
Jane, sorry, did you want to?
Yes, I was just going to say it's all about the stereotypes, isn't it? You know, I'm sure, I mean, I don't know if Bob the Builder's still on telly, but I know that my children grew up thinking it was, you know, construction and building work was, you know, Bob the Builder. And quite often the media does portray building trades as being sort of, again, male dominated, not very sort of female friendly, and it focuses on the sort of site work and the dirty, messy, dangerous jobs that.
Although there was Mr. Braithwaite, don't forget, on Bob the Builder, who was the building inspector.
Was there? Do you know what? I never watched it. I sat them in front of it, but
there was Mr. Braithwaite. And when things went horribly wrong, we actually did get to meet Mr. Braithwaite's boss from the council once, but I can't remember what he was called. But needless to say, they were both men.
Oh, are those the episodes that you wrote, Anna? Yeah. So,
how many bricklayers do you know that started off as bricklayers and they've ended up owning their own businesses and being very, very successful? You know, a lot of the construction companies, certainly when I first came into the profession, like John Langs, for example, he started off as a bricklayer, then started building houses, and it went from there, and it just spiraled. And Langs became a multi-million-pound company. You know,
exactly.
they were in those days, it was a competition between Langs and Wimpy. And you either, if you worked in construction, you worked for one or the other as a rule. But I mean, they don't exist as that anymore.
You're absolutely right, Julie. Of my son's friends from his class, they're all 27. The only one who actually owns his house outright and has a couple of cars and has got married because he can afford to and blah, 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 is a bricklayer. And he's the only one. He didn't go to university, hasn't got a degree. You know, he's just worked his socks off since he was 16. You know, started off as an apprentice, and he's just doing fantastically well. So, you know, he should be a role model, shouldn't he? That we should be.
I mean, I totally agree with that. And you know, there's as I say, all the youngsters these days, I shouldn't put them down, because I think, you know, where are we without them? But I do believe what you said, Anna, that it starts sometimes with the parents and having ambitions. But I think that the youngsters these days, the younger generation, they just are not aware of what we actually do. When we've had work experience coming, because I worked in local authority for a long time, and we used to have work experience kids come in, and they always wanted to go into planning because that's what they knew about. But then they do a circuit around the office, they'd work in planning, they'd do a bit in admin as well, and then they come to us in building control and they say, oh, I didn't know this existed. I really, really like this. I was going to be an architect, but I actually think I'd quite like to be in building control, because it's quite diverse. Because for those of us that work in building control, we know that very often no 2 days are ever the same. And, you know, it can be very, very diverse from one day to the next. And, you know, you're in the office and you're out of the office, which is a good combination, I think. You know, you're not stuck behind a desk all day long. And as I say, I think that, you know, there's not enough education given to start off with. It wasn't like that when I was at school. My criteria for joining John Langs was, as long as I could draw, I'd be quite happy, because, as I say, I want to be a fashion designer. not a beauty therapist, I have to say, but a fashion designer.
You see, I was told that I was taken on as a trainee building inspector because I was a woman and I'd tick a box and make some numbers up for them. And I was actually told terrible. That, which is going to make you go one of two ways, isn't it? You're either going to just leave because that's appalling, or you're going to show them.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I decided to show them. But, you know, I got asked in one interview, I think it was for my third job. So I did have some experience. And I got asked in that meeting, in that interview, if I had a problem being a woman. Which, you
Well,
know,
how did you answer
I think
that?
that was quite common.
well, I answered it and I said I'd been doing it for about 22 years and I was quite good at it now, thank you very much. But, you know, that's just, what he meant was, I've got a problem with a woman coming into this office because what are we going to talk about?
Hmm.
You know?
Yeah,
I
it's,
mean,
Yeah.
we've probably all had it on site, haven't we, when we've gone out to site. I mean, times I've turned up and they've said, "Oh, you're a woman."
No.
It's
No,
natural,
guys,
Dad.
guys.
What gave it away? And I would be quite crude here and do the old Dawn French thing, but I'm not going to do that. But what gave it away, you know?
Sorry, we're just introducing Dawn Williams onto our platform as well, guys. Welcome, Dawn. Dawn is very active in construction, women in construction generally, anyway, as well as being a chartered building engineer. She's RICS too. I know she's a lot of work with the RICS. Dawn has just mentioned some of the other, because the next thing I was going to ask is how early in education you think we should be promoting construction. I actually go into primary schools. I work with the national curriculum because I think it's as early as that we're looking at role models and actually showing what construction is about. You know, we mentioned Bob the Builder, but actually a bit more than that. But Dawn is going to be telling us about some of the other schemes. The RSS is a lot bigger than CABE. I have to say that before anything else. And the oh my gosh, I'm thinking of Sarah Noble, who's in charge of the early education involvement. Then they have their own team, quite a large team, to be honest, which is fantastic, because I do think it's that early we should be getting children involved or exposed to construction and to the industry. Dawn, would you like to tell us? Hi.
Hello,
Welcome.
everyone. So yeah, my background, I'm a chartered building surveyor, a chartered building engineer. As a building surveyor, there's only 8% of females. So I was the only girl on the course at university, got into my first job, and I've always been in the minority. And sort of as I've got through my career, sort of children are getting a little bit bigger, I've sort of started thinking I really want to try and increase the representation of women, because I think that's the only real way we're going to get change. So I started off becoming an RICS ambassador, and it was just a case of going into some schools. Particularly, I went into my old school and met up with all the teachers there and got a really, really good response. And I've never been good at public speaking, but sat in front of a school, for an assembly full of people, and really enjoyed it and got really, really good positive feedback from it. And interestingly, sort of asking, I mean, you don't know how many people have been honest, and just keeping their hands down, but most times I've asked, I seem to get one or two in an assembly full who know what a chartered surveyor is. They just haven't got a clue. They've heard of architect, they've heard of engineer, but haven't heard the surveyor, or just doesn't know what's involved. So yeah, I'll go into quite a few schools, but I'm also involved in a charity which is a chartered surveyors training trust charity called My Environment, My Future. It's a really, really good program, and it's basically introducing the built environment into schools. So it runs along the geography, GCSE and A-level curriculum. So they've got all the program there. It's all Gatsby approved, and the teachers then can pick through and select the areas that they want to teach. And they also run a competition, which is really good as sort of after school club or a lunchtime club. And we're getting really good feedback from that. And I'm finding when I do go into schools, the children seem really interested in the sustainability side of things, and wellness and that type of thing. So I've done a couple, and I've got another one next week now, where we're going into a school, delivering a talk on sustainability and the built environment and different possible careers within there. And then we have the morning to do a presentation, and then they present back to us. and it's all about something sustainable and beneficial to children of their age. They get into groups of sort of 5 and design a sustainable building. We talk about sort of brownfield sites, greenfield sites, refurbishment of properties, just to get them sort of thinking of different things. And they come up with some brilliant ideas, you know, and you can see they really get excited by it. I learned that we have to notify them of their prize at the start. As I've worked out, you know, we donate something, you know, a £10 per person prize. They're normally in about teams of 5, so sort of costs the business £50. So, you know, it's not a lot, but it really does engage the children, and you see their sort of you know, it really gets the competition going. But if anyone's interested in going into schools, it's a really, really good program, and Molly Dunn, the program manager, is really enthusiastic, and yeah, really good.
Yeah, that's great, Dawn. Yeah, that's the sort of thing I really think going forward. I mean, it's looking to find out what it is that ticks the boxes for children, what they, you know, but what they can see as being a future career. Then we have a problem with teachers as well. No, it's not a problem, but
I agree with you there, because sometimes the teachers, the careers leads love the program, but the actual geography teachers, they're the ones that often go, oh, it's so much more work, and it's not, it's all planned, you know, the lesson plans are there and everything, but it's just that reluctance of change, really.
My dad was a geography teacher, so maybe there's like something in that, and maybe you know.
It's what I find, because I went to my old girls' school, which is St Paul's in Edgbaston in Birmingham, and I spoke to the assistant head there, who's also the careers lead, and she said, we've got loads of students who do really well at geography at GCSE, but they don't take it on at A level because they don't know what career other than teaching they can go into, and that gave them a really good option. And they, you know, the girls that I've sort of seen there had never considered it as a career, but now they're like, you know, oh, this is quite a good option, and you know, they're doing really well in GCSEs and A levels, but just haven't considered it as a career path.
Yeah,
we need to start with them when they start playing Minecraft. If we can
well,
actually...
that's the other thing, actually. The RICS are trialing a Minecraft
yeah, we're doing it through the PGP. Yeah, we're doing it through the PGP
so,
construction group.
Yeah, I think it's only a very small, you know, sort of a team working on it at the moment, but that could be rolled out, because I think that would definitely engage.
Absolutely.
Possibly more young boys than girls, but yeah, I think there are quite a few girls that do play Minecraft, but from the lads that I've sort of, you know, the pupils I've seen, it seems to be more the boys seem to engage with the Minecraft than the girls. But you know, even
it's just holding on to something that's I use Roman history, so every other year on the curriculum primary school they do Roman history anyway, or the Romans, sorry, and I just bring construction into that, because the Romans were just amazing construction wise, and they sort of relate to that then, you know, when you're talking about when they can actually see something, or you can describe something that they can see, a photograph, whatever, you know. But it's a really good point about going in early on. I think a really good something that Anna, you mentioned about your son going into IT again, as well as geography, Dawn. IT, when we're looking at the future of the construction industry, we have to be looking at AI, and we're all going to be taking as part of that. So whereas there is going to be a specialist need for IT specific AI people in the construction industry, the EU have already started putting people into categories for what we need in the future, and there's that bridge between, you know, construction and AI, you know, that. So, and that's quite exciting, you know. So it's choosing the right vehicles, if you like, to go into school and just catch the imagination of the children as well. But my experience is that we've got a GCSE in construction in Wales. We're looking at an A level and working on that. They've actually got one there, but the people teaching it were reluctant DT teachers. They didn't want to do it. They actually didn't want to teach the construction courses because they didn't feel they were able to. So my question to everybody, the panel first, is that what can the professional institutions do The RSS are doing an awful lot for early engagement, I know, but what can we do? What can our members do you think, to help that, school-wise? And Dawn mentioned being ambassador for the RICS, which is definitely a way forward. But what about these courses, even university courses as well? We're struggling for good quality, dare I say it, practitioners and lecturing. Yeah. What can the professional institutions do you think, to help that problem?
Lindsay, I think we need to broaden the terminology that we use, and instead of pigeonhole the specific professions as individual bite sizes, I think we need to use terminology such as the built environment, placemaking, because it all encompasses construction, and then start to decipher the individual parts of the sector. And coming back to the work experience, which we've all hosted young people in our organisations, and we were all fortunate to have work experience. I think that's slightly fallen by the wayside when the government got rid of the career services that used to help facilitate work experience and help bring young people into organisations that were willing to showcase the different types of professions that exist just in one organisation. And I think there's been some short-sightedness in that, and I think we need to go back to basics and bring that back in.
My concern, sorry, with the work experience is the health and safety issues of it now. I mean, I'm a residential building surveyor. I do sort of level 3 surveys and defect analysis. I do bring a lot of people out on work experience. Most of them are university level, because it just lends itself a bit easier, or sort of friends of people I know, their children, because you haven't got the same concerns about the health and safety. But it's difficult because a lot of the time you're in a car alone with somebody else. There's obviously, if someone's going up a ladder, it's all the sort of risks to those sort of young people. And I'd be very nervous bringing a young person out with me. I think someone at university level who's a bit more mature out, it's not as bad. But yeah, I can understand why it's got less popular with the work experience, because I think people are more nervous of it, whereas years ago they weren't.
I think local authorities do still offer work experience where they can, because I think they're quite well set up for it. But as you say, the safeguarding issues are enormous. My thing that leads on from work experience is actual mentoring. If I can, I'd like to mention the LABC Academy. So the LABC Academy has been set up by LABC predominantly with government funding, new burdens funding, because of the skills gap that's been identified in building control, and particularly the need to support the building safety regulator, and the increased demand that's put on everybody. So we've had a national recruitment program. We're using an external body for that. So we're whittling thousands of applicants potentially down to hundreds, who we're then putting through a whole day recruitment program where they do an aptitude test, they do a technical test, they have a face-to-face interview, they do group work, and we're whittling those down. So the way the program works is those people are employed directly by LABC. They spend 1 day a week doing our online learning through our online learning platform and our tutors, which is obviously all live. They do a day a week doing their homework, which is really important, because those of us that did day release never got any time for that, did we? We did 5 days a week work, or 4 days a week, 1 day a week at college. We worked all weekend, we worked all evenings to get qualified as day release. Ours actually get a day a week to do that. They then have 3 days a week, and that's the important bit, working in a building control team, going out on site, being properly mentored, being shown how to do the job. And we've now got 136 of these trainees in post, actually working, and 17% of them are female, which is, I mean, for any other industry that would be pathetic, but for construction I think that's phenomenal, don't you? So it can be done, but we could only do it because we had support from the government, and because we did it as part of our network, and that's really important. I think doing any of this in isolation is much more difficult.
it's probably easier actually, through local authority to do this mentoring and the apprenticeship scheme. Unfortunately, now working in the private sector, we are just so busy that we don't actually get a lot of time to do mentoring and training. It's something that I love doing, passing on those skills.
And I think that view is so widely shared, but it's so short-sighted, isn't it? You have to, we've got to make the time. People have got to make the time to train the next generation. Otherwise, there won't be enough people to do the work.
No, it's something I've always enjoyed doing, is training and mentoring. I've had many trainees. As you know, one of mine was LABC Trainee of the Year.
Yeah.
And he's gone on to better things. In fact, he took over from me as manager at my last authority, because, you know, I always pulled him in.
He was well trained.
I pulled him in, and sort of grooming's the wrong word these days. but I was mentoring him because I knew that, you know, he'd be a good person to carry on and take over.
Exactly.
Oh, there's some really good points there, actually. What I think the CABE for Women group are good at is looking. We like to collaborate wherever we can, Dawn. Anyway, you know, our last panel meeting included Anne Gray, who was president at the time of RICS, and Sandy Rees-Jones, who's bless her, has had an accident recently, as some of you may know. But I think. Oh, sorry, everything's cool. Some feedback then. I think that that's one thing that we're not precious about boundary. I think we're all quite passionate about trying, doing our best to promote construction, and we see the skills gap as being something that we all feel with the need to do something about, you know, which is fantastic. And it's interesting to hear the different steps that organisations are leading to order. Liz made a good point, I think, about using the term built environment rather than construction. You know, maybe we should be rebranding what we use, you know, to sound more attractive, you know. What are your feelings about that? Will that be more confusing? What do you think?
Certainly the built environment's a better label for it. I think construction, people just think of hard hats and, you know, site boots, and I think there's a lot of women in particular that aren't as attracted to that sort of route. And for me, I find a lot of people say I'd like to be an architect because they understand that everyone knows what an architect is. I think someone said that earlier. And all it is just having that avenue in, because you know, my background is I was going to do chemistry, and I went to do some work experience in a chemistry lab and absolutely hated it. And I temped as a receptionist in a quantity surveying firm. I thought, oh, this is interesting. Everyone's out, they're not stuck behind a desk all day. They've, you know, got nice cars. It's a nice office. Everyone was friendly. And then from that avenue, I looked at all the different options and decided building surveying was for me. But I would never have even considered that as a career if it wasn't for that opportunity of, you know, working as a receptionist. So, and you know, that was a 2-week role because I just used to temp in the school holidays. So it's just giving people that idea of, like, you know, when they're looking through the university perspective or considering going for an apprenticeship, just to actually consider that and look into it, because I think many, particularly women, just haven't even considered it as a career option. And, you know, I absolutely love my job, you know, and I don't think there's that many people that can say they really love their job. So, you know, I think that's...
I do.
I think, well, no, but I think we are very fortunate, but there's so many of my friends, so many people I speak to who hate their jobs, you know. And I think it's that passion. If we can go into schools and spread that love and say we love it, we enjoy it, we're doing this, we're doing that, I think that enthusiasm for it comes across, and it just inspires a couple of people. And once you inspire a couple of people, they start talking about it, and, you know, before you know it, you know, it grows. It's only slight, it's not going to massively change things, but you know, every little bit helps, doesn't it? So
if I didn't love construction, I wouldn't have been stayed in it for like over 50 years. And as I say, it's always given me a career. But I think we're actually quite privileged if we can wake up each day and say, actually, I love my job.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, and I do, because no 2 days are ever the same. I'm working on some brilliant projects now, which is all, it's just so diverse. It's brilliant. I love it.
I think we're getting better at supporting each other. There's some people on this call. I'm just looking down the participant list. Jaspal's on this call. She's been a work buddy for donkey's years. You know, she's always done what what we're talking about, and inspired other people and supported other people, you know. And then there's new people coming into it, like Christina. If that's you, Christina from Dorset, you know, you're really new to the game, but you're doing the same thing, and you are inspiring people. And it's really good that it's not just us lot who, dare I say it, are all over 30. It's there are others coming along as well, which is so nice.
I'm just looking through the list, actually. Caroline Hampton is on here as well. Caroline, I don't know whether you want to join the panels, although instead that I knew this would be the case. I knew that today we'd run out of time. We've got 5 minutes left, and we've actually haven't gone down the list of things that we were going to discuss. We had a little informal list that we were going to work through. Caroline has got a hand up here. Hi Caroline, how are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. Hi. Oh, you can't see me. I can't
see you. No, but I can see your name.
Good, thank you.
Do you have any comments on your experience with promoting construction, or any views on how we could encourage more people into it from that sort of age group, you know, primary school, secondary school?
Yes, I mean, my children at the moment are 19 and 17, so young adults, and yes, it's so difficult for them to choose an appropriate path when they're looking at university prospectuses, and they don't understand what lots of these careers are. And I mean, I didn't do my degree until I was 37, and so I sort of had a good idea of what I was getting myself into. I just sometimes think it's a bit too young at 18 to even understand what some of these careers are, let alone pick one for yourself. And now it's so expensive to do a degree as well. It's quite a commitment. I'm trying to encourage my son into an apprenticeship. I think that's
building control. Look at the LABC one. We've got
quantity surveying, Caroline.
190 people through the Wolverhampton building control degree in the last 5 years, which is a massive number.
Absolutely.
That's absolutely
such a success story, that actually. So Caroline, I met Caroline in Westminster in a meeting recently. She's chief executive of the Safety Assessment Federation, and so your background, Caroline, is you know, your working life is a bit different, isn't it? From memory,
I think you may have the wrong Caroline. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, there's 2 Carolines.
That's okay. No. That's absolutely fine. I was invited to say hello, and I thought, why not?
No, Caroline, fantastic. Because one of the things about these sections I think we have in the future is it would be great to have everybody able to contribute. You know, we didn't know how this would work today, so it was sort of, you know, it's the second time we've had sort of a panel to do it. But what we were hoping for is actually we want to hear from as many people as we can, because we want to find out what we can do as a group to make things more better, you know, what we can provide or offer, to sort of promote ourselves a little bit as well, but to bring up issues like the skills gap at the moment, and maybe have a chat from a female perspective about things. So it's lovely to have you there.
Thank you.
And Jasper, you too. As I say, I think we'll ask Shanika and Abby in the future how we could do this to have. I know it'll be harder to manage because there's going to be a lot of people here. I mean, Jane's got you've got your hand up there, Jane. Sorry, is there something you wanted to have missed that? Sorry.
Yes. Well, it was going back a little while about the positive role models. You know, we this is what we need, and you know, we've got plenty in the room here on the panel, and probably in the participants in this webinar probably have similar stories to us. You know, that they're in the industry already, and they've got good stories to tell, and we've all got our negative things as well. You know, the issues like, you know, getting asked at a job description, I hope you're not getting a job interview, I hope you're not getting pregnant, which is, you know, what I got asked when I said I just got married, and we're not going to go get pregnant.
Don't
I thought,
think you're allowed to ask that anymore, Jane.
but I think you know, the message we need to
Oh, things are frozen a little bit at the
Just
moment.
frozen.
Yeah, sorry, it's Jane's disappeared, and that's and frozen. I'm conscious of the fact there's 14:59, and we're finishing in a minute. I thank you so much, everybody. Really, this is going to have to continue. We always find our committee meetings like this. To be honest, we come up with an issue and we carry on, well over the hour. We definitely will be running this. Sorry, Jane, you disappeared for a minute then. But thank you everybody for attending today. As I say, we are going to continue this with a second session because we've only actually gone through the first item on the list, and there are 6 items to talk about the skills gap. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Dawn, for coming in last minute. Caroline, thank you for jumping in, and Jasper for coming on screen. Fantastic. Again, Shanika and Abby, thank you for accommodating us today. Any other questions, our emails are actually on the CABE website under the CABE for Women group. So if you need to contact us at any time, please do so. And thank you for attending, and watch out on LinkedIn. There'll be another one soon. Thanks so much.
Sorry, can I just quickly say, if
Yeah, of course.
anybody's interested in My Environment, My Future, or any of the schools talks, by all means, just contact me on LinkedIn. It's Dawn Williams, EOS Surveyors, and I can put you in touch with Molly Dunn, the Programme Manager.
Fantastic, Dawn. In
Okay.
fact, I'll be in touch with you because
Yes,
that's
please.
amazing. That's
Okay,
fantastic.
brilliant.
Again, cross collaboration with
Definitely.
professional institutions is the way forward. Definitely, this is a problem for the whole industry, and I'd like to think that we can share resources and schemes that we've got in place too. But thank you very much, panel members. I haven't eaten my cake. I'm going to enjoy that now in the next hour. But have a great afternoon, and as I say, I've put on the chat the engineering report from last month, looking at figures and stats relating to that drop in females. Quite an interesting read, and just watch LinkedIn, and we'll be there soon.
Oh, and Steve's feeling left out because he didn't get a word in edgeways because of all the women talking all the time. So sorry, Steve, come back next time.
Yeah, as I say, next time we're hoping to share. Oh, hi, Steve. Next time we're hoping to share screens with everybody, and because I'm conscious of the fact that we, as I say, we don't seem to have got very far. I hope it's been of help though, and I think that the CPD will be sorted out through CABE. So thanks very much, guys. Have a good afternoon. Bye.
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 Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.